Well, that's going to bring us to our main conversation today, which I've actually been super excited about for a while. And I'm gonna lay this out so that people understand the scene, okay? So at 593 Washington, which is where G. Cherubin is the boss, there are a lot of people who come through that room. And, I usually don't name drop on purpose, but this one requires a name drop.
No, it doesn't.
It does, though. This one requires a name drop. What are we on, year 11 of the existence of Blue Smoke?
Year 10.
This is year 10. This is the 10-year anniversary of Blue Smoke. So for years, anybody who came through Brooklyn and smoked cigars would make an appearance in the room. And every time R. Kelly came to play New York, he would find his way to Blue Smoke. He would come and he would sit in the back and, whatever. He would want the shop to stay open late. Neither here nor there. When Surviving R. Kelly came out, we were in the lounge and we were watching the show. It was, I think, episode 1 or 2 of Surviving R. Kelly. And I was sitting on the same red couch where he usually sits. And, I was like, yo. And this was kind of my position before Surviving R. Kelly came out. Like, it wasn't a new thing, but it was a thing. And I was like, yo, he can't come here no more. He just can't be coming in this space like it's good. Like, we are a bunch of black men. And for me, I was just like, I don't feel like he should just be able to walk in here like this is just good, because that's not what's up. And then G really pushed back. Like, we got into it. And I think the conversation that night went on for long, and then we talked about it like 2 or 3 more times. And I was actually surprised about her position. I've thought about it since. And it really, for me, raises the question of how we police our spaces. I feel like one element of community is setting boundaries in terms of who gets free access to where and what and when and how. And it's on us first to police our own spaces. But I was surprised at your reaction to that comment. And I'm curious, how do we go about policing our spaces? And I think, G, once you explain like what your position was, it'll be a little bit more apparent why I'm asking the question.
Right. My position was really set on the fact that Blue Smoke being what it is, in terms of just the sheer volume of black men that get to come into the space and decompress, right? My ears ring at some of the conversations that take place in there, and I'm just like a fly on the wall. I'm not here to spread anyone's business or to anything. I'm just doing what I do, right? But so for me, I was just like, R. Kelly didn't seem any different from any of the other men who went after super young girls. And for me to say to R. Kelly that he couldn't come, then I'd have to really now start to screen the men that walk through the door and pass that same level of judgment. The reason why we can judge R. Kelly to the level that we do is because he's a super high profile person. All of his business is put out. And maybe he had a little bit more money to kind of do it on another level that was a little beyond what the average Joe is doing. But every dude, like, I got an 18-year-old daughter and she's beautiful. And when I'm walking down the street with her and I want to fight every grown man who's trying to and this is not just when she's turned 18, since she's been 14. I've been, my poor son been like, yo, mom, look, I'm going to need some extra mace. You know what I'm saying? This walk home from school is getting rough because these grown men is pressing, Lola because she's beautiful and her body is super banging, So, and I say that to say, if we're going to put him on the wall and be like, he's a target, then we need to do a better job within our own community and within our own men in our own circle that we know are preying on these young girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a trophy when this dude bags, he's 57, right, and he's rolling in here with this 19-and-a-half-year-old girl. You know what I'm saying?
But I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive, right? And I think the issue that I have is I understand that in certain spaces, we don't always know who's doing what.
Right.
Right? Like, and that was kind of sort of, if I'm understanding you correctly, the basis for your position.
Right.
Once we cross that line, you too, sir, have to go. Like, I don't think it's just because we knew that R. Kelly, whatever, and then everybody else, because they was on a low or whatever, it wasn't a thing. As a community, we've generally decided this is not acceptable. Once we find out that that's happening, I think that we have every license to say, nah, you're not welcome here.
It's weird because find it out, like, are we investigating others' lives now? Like, what are we doing?
That's a good question. I think we're not, but I also think that part of the reason why I feel so strongly about this is that when we don't police our spaces aggressively, it encourages, if not altogether enables, certain behaviors to take place. So once we find out that certain behaviors are taking place that we've generally deemed to be unacceptable in our community, it's kind of like one of those things where if you knew what was going on and you stood around and you said nothing and you just let it happen and you just let the dude come around.
Well,
and
I'm not
be
saying,
easy,
okay, so look, I'm not trying to create a haven for him to be bringing his young girls into my room.
Well, even the fact that and I'm clear on that.
You know what I'm saying? But that's a lot of why my pushback is on saying that it's not enough for us to just say you can't come here.
Right.
Because now that just means that we don't have no opportunity to kind of try to like get at this and influence that behavior or have that conversation.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like my room is not like the club. My room is a space where men come to decompress. My room is a space where men have real conversations where you can hold each other accountable.
So you think that it would have been better to, at that point, pull up on him and say like, yo, stop hanging out at the McDonald's.
No, yeah, I'm saying that that's a space where that kind of conversation can happen.
Should happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. Versus a room, this is not the strip club.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's a very different kind of space. And I'm saying that there needs to be spaces that exist for those people. And that conversation doesn't need to just happen with R. Kelly. It needs to happen with every dude in your circle, on your phone log, that you know is engaging in that kind of behavior. And there needs to be safe spaces for us where we do police it. And I'm just saying that in my room is not the room where we're going to say, oh, nah, these are the lists of the type of dudes we let in. Right. And these are the lists of the type of, you heavy sagging pants dudes, come in my room. Please. You know why? Because I want you to feel uncomfortable when somebody rolls up on you and be like, yo, put your pants up.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because you're in a space where we're expecting you to move and operate in a certain kind of way. I'm enjoying my cigar. I don't want your whole underwears in my face if you're standing in front of me.
I think that, I see where you're going with it in terms of, and that was maybe a piece that we hadn't really talked about before. I understand the idea of like, we have to be intentional about when these spaces present themselves, the accountability piece. You know, I think not welcoming is one approach in terms of like, you're not good here.
Right.
And that's one way people can handle it. But the other side to it is if you're gonna have it where it's like, nah, come on in, my guy. Mm-hmm. Once they're there,
we got something for you.
You gotta be intentional about the actual regulation.
Right.
That's the piece that I think is maybe missing. Is that if we have spaces, policing may not necessarily be like, you're not welcome. I mean, there may be some spaces like this high school cheerleading competition, get out of here, right? But in spaces like you've described, G, in sort of neutral spaces, adult spaces, or if you will, that would allow for that type of discussion, it's not okay then to just let you come in and post up.
Right.
Like you can't just come post up.
Right.
Like, yo,
like we don't know you was just with the 14-year-old.
Let me holler at you real quick.
Right.
My dude, let me holler at you real quick. So when we're talking about policing our community and policing our spaces, I think that's the takeaway. The takeaway is that we've got to be intentional about the accountability piece. And we can't sort of just allow that to fall on other people's shoulders. Like policing our community is everyone's responsibility.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a matter of like, I gotta be super investigative in somebody's business. But when it's mad flagrant and everybody in the hood knows, and everybody knows what's going on, when you in that space, you're gonna get pressed.
Right.
That's what it looks like, I think. And that's really, I think, where those two worlds come together.